Hey, we are two Star Wars nerds, and we are back with another Star Wars Wisdom Talk. We take quotes from all over Star Wars, and we just share some of, I guess, our life experience, some of our wisdom, some of our worldview through that lens. And in particular, this quote the missus actually plucked out from watching The Empire Strikes Back. She was watching it for the first time with her friend Dana.
Oh, not my first time.
Not her first time.
Our friend's first time.
Dana's first time.
Yeah.
And the quote was Yoda, right before his super, super famous do or do not. He says, "You must unlearn what you have learned." There's a lot to that. But in proper fashion, how about you start us off? And then I'll close us.
It hit me when watching it this last time with our friend. I had never caught that quote before, but I think just maturing in age and getting older, you notice different things, and you notice different things in different seasons of your life. And as I was watching that one, I was like, man, that was hitting me, because I feel like so often, I feel like the more I know something, the more I've spent time in something, the more I realize I don't know that much about that thing. And really, it's just, I don't know, it just started making me think to this whole loop of where you have to unlearn what you think you know, because when you think you have it all, then you stop learning and you stop maturing and you stop growing. So you almost have to come to a place where we're continually learning, and you're like, yes, I have some knowledge here, but I don't have all the answers. I don't have it figured out. I'm not, what is the word? It's not, in Star Wars, I'm not a master, but in the world, I can't think of what the word is. But I'm not at this top tier level. And so often when we think we've learned everything that we can learn, we see Luke do it in Empire Strikes Back. He's like, and yeah, I think he's not just coming from a place where I know all the answers. He was coming out of a place of desperation to save his friends. But when we end up making moves and doing things that maybe we shouldn't have done, because we think we have all the answers, but really we have a limited view and a limited perspective, because we've stopped growing and we've stopped learning.
Yeah, so true. And I can think of a lot of very specific things where this is found to be true in my life. We have 2 little boys now, and you hear people say it all the time, people who have kids, and they're like, no 2 kids are the same. And
is that true?
Yeah, and we've thought, oh, well, ours are the exception, right? And there is a bit of unlearning. There's things that you carry through, but it's like I found myself being unfair to my youngest, because I expect him to kind of meet my unset expectations, that have come from, raising the oldest.
Right.
And so there is you have to unlearn. And it's not saying that it's wrong, but it may be a seasonal thing. Mm-hmm. Or there's a deeper truth where it's like you have to, in a sense,
where it's true with our oldest, but it's not true with our youngest. So it's not like you get rid of it either.
Yeah.
It has its place.
Or it's a deeper truth. Maybe it's like, this is too specialized, and you have to, I'm very careful with this word, because in a faith context, I think it's bad. But you have to deconstruct, in a sense. You have to tear apart what that is and be like, oh, at the core, it's like, I want to give my kids love and security. And that may look different for each kid, right? Or even in jobs, I've had 3 job transitions basically in a year. And so I have to unlearn things at each one, where it's like, okay, I finished basically a 10-year tenure at one job, and then I had another job that I didn't really want, but it was paying the bills, and then now I'm at a new job I want. But each place, I can't act like it's the prior.
Right.
I have to have this humility of mind. I even think of literally how our brains are designed. Really, there's really fancy terms and studies of neuroplasticity that our neural pathways are more plastic in the sense that they can be rerouted and molded and strengthened and weakened, as opposed to like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like that's just a falsehood. So I have to think we have to unlearn what you've learned. That it's like we have to retrain our minds to think differently about our situations. And it's really freeing when you're like, oh, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to be able to have an account for like, why did I do this? It's like, man, I'm just trying to figure it out.
And there's a level of humility. And when you're not learning, there's pride. So we always want to be learning, like lifelong learners. Like maybe, we don't keep paying thousands and thousands of dollars to go to school, but whatever it is, like how can we learn to be better parents? How can you learn in your job? How can I grow in worship to the Lord? How can I learn more theology? How can I become a better writer? How can we know more about Star Wars? Like even like I thought I knew so much about Star Wars as a kid, and I think I did. But now, like, I hear people and I'm like, maybe I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I don't know anything.
Maybe the channel was named wrong.
Yeah, sometimes I think that.
Two Star Wars normies or something.
But at the same time, like, then when you realize you're like, even with Star Wars, the simplicity thing, like, man, I don't know all of Star Wars. It's actually a beautiful thing. Because now I get to discover new things about Star Wars. And that's why we've started the EU, and I'm falling in love with new characters that I didn't know about. And so it's actually a beautiful journey. And it's not just like that in Star Wars. It's like that in my writing, in my worship to the Lord. I see a new facet of who he is every day. I open my Bible. So as parents and parenting every single day, you're like, man, I feel like I'm even with our first son, like our oldest son, it's like, man, this worked for him, 3 weeks ago, but he's entering into a new season. So we get to learn more about who he's becoming. And so it's literally like everything in our lives. Like we never want to come to a place where we have it figured out, because we really don't. And seasons change, life changes. And we just should always come with a humble heart and be like, I may know some stuff, but I don't have it all figured out. And that's where you can ask people for help. You can, pray. You can do different things, whatever that looks like in the different scenarios that we've given, or even apply it to other scenarios that we haven't even discussed. But it's really an opportunity to grow and learn more about whatever it is you're deciding to realize that you don't have all the knowledge for.
And in a sense, I think Dagobah, and I don't know, maybe this is like a strangely niche topic that no one's asking about, but if you're thinking about George Lucas and like the modern mythos, I think Dagobah in a sense would function, like if you're familiar with the biblical narrative, as like the wilderness for Luke. Like it's a testing of the deepest parts of himself, and it's exposing all of the wronghoods, it's exposing all the pride and the junk and the fear he has. And so Yoda being Yoda, the wise sage, saying you must unlearn what you have learned, is it saying like because he feels like he needs to, when he's like, I've already learned so much. It's like, bro, it's been maybe hours, days. Like it hasn't been that long.
Maybe a week or two. I don't know.
And just the pride and desperation he has. It's like, I need to use whatever I have to muscle through. And it's like, that'll actually be your downfall. Like you actually have to learn the self-fulfilling prophecy of you're afraid of failing, but your fear of failing is actually what's going to make you fail. Yeah. That might be a word salad, but and so there is that just letting go and finding the beauty in the wonder and feeling unqualified. Like, and then when you realize, you're like, some of the most secure people, they're so open to acknowledge their shortcomings, their lack of knowledge, and just be open to things. It's actually probably the most insecure people who are like, no, I have an answer for everything. I find knowledge or I find security in knowledge. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, but why can't we, you don't always have to be the one with the right answer.
Just grow in knowledge because you're passionate about whatever it is, not for knowledge's sake.
And I'll end on this. This is something that I thought of maybe a few years ago. I found, just with a position I held for like 10 years, I was always being asked questions, always had to present in front of people, always had to teach. And so I really found that essentially, like, my whole life was like taking in information, forming opinions, and having an answer for things. What I didn't realize is that crept into every area of my life. So then it was like always like unsolicited, just like, like, here's, nobody asked, but like, here's what I think. And I had an opinion on everything. And I had to learn, I'm like, I actually want to say, I don't know a lot, like genuinely, like come to that place where I don't know. And also feel freedom to say, I don't have an opinion on it and I don't need to.
Yes.
And those two things were really challenging to step into. And it's something I'm still trying to unlearn, the idea of like always having an answer for things. But maybe for somebody out there that would speak to you and you need the permission, so to speak, from an internet stranger to just say,
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Or I literally don't have an opinion on that. And let it be there and be like, I don't have to form one.
Right.
I can just say, I don't know. I don't have the capacity, or nor do I want to have the capacity to focus on this. Like, I want to focus on what's important in my life. And that's totally okay. With that, we are two Star Wars nerds. These are our Star Wars Wisdom Talks. Check out this playlist if you like things like this. And just listen to some wisdom from Star Wars.